Hello and welcome to Business Unusual. This is where we are discussing the current events that are happening around us. And of course, we are looking at them from the perspective of the kingdom. Now, we are looking at Haggai chapter 2, verse 6 to 9 that best describes the season that you are living in. A season that God is shaking the heavens and the earth. And as we continue looking at this, we want to understand, we as kingdom business people, how are we supposed to navigate? My name is Susan Opio and my co-host
Charles Opio.
And of course, we'll go straight to asking the question that we all need to understand.
Yes.
What is a kingdom business?
Yes, what is a kingdom business? So the best way is to first give a macro example,
yes,
or a definition,
yes,
and then get into the nitty-gritty of that, what that means.
Okay.
And we've always distinguished kingdom business is very separate from business.
Okay, that's why we are calling it kingdom
business.
Yes.
This is not just Christian people who want to do business. This is not somebody who loves God who has determined they are going to do business.
Okay.
And this is not something that you hope God will come into your business.
Let's say that again, that kingdom business and Christian business are two different things.
Completely.
When we talk of kingdom business and
Yes.
we check the rules and laws of kingdom business,
Yes.
they're so different.
Yes.
The mentality,
Yes.
the perspective, how you view life is so
Absolutely.
different from a Christian business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so maybe for a lot of people, this might be a whole new interaction.
That is why I said now, go back
Yes,
to it. Yes.
of understanding what we mean, because this is not just you coming into an environment of the kingdom and saying, you know, because I'm a kingdom person, I'd like to do kingdom business. So we want to clearly separate this from the idea of somebody doing business who loves God, somebody who does business because they're in the kingdom,
Yes.
to a definition called a kingdom
kingdom
business.
Please do that. Talk to our viewers and
Right?
do that. Yes.
So, a kingdom business is a business that makes kingdom impact through influencing change within the community it serves and the people it touches. The industry it is involved in is also affected by it while bringing transformation into the land. So I'll say that again. A kingdom business, pay close attention,
Yes.
is a business that makes kingdom impact through influencing change within the community it serves, the people it touches, the industry it is involved in, and brings transformation into the land. So when a kingdom business affects an environment, the nation changes.
Because I was going to tell you that if you break down all the things you've said,
Yes.
you're talking from the personal, the individual,
Yes.
and it goes all the way to the
All
nations.
the way.
Meaning, God is not about self. God is not
Yes.
about me, myself, and
Nope.
I. Kingdom business is not about me making it for
Yes.
me and my family.
Yes,
This is about touching the nations.
completely.
So somebody with a kingdom business, when you give that definition,
Yes.
you're saying that you must have a vision
Yes.
beyond you and immediate family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to begin with, it also means your vision must be greater than you.
Say that.
Your vision must be greater than you.
Yes.
It must exist past you.
Okay.
In fact, a kingdom business is something you may start and not be the one to finish.
Yeah.
You must have the legacy component into your mind.
Yes.
All these are factors around it. And so we're going to look at those issues and bring them into a context.
Yes.
That macro definition we've given, there's some core issues out of that that need to be emphasized and need to be looked at.
Okay.
Okay? So, one of the things that we need to understand is a kingdom business is a for-profit enterprise. It means it is not a charity.
That's what we need to discuss, because every time you talk of kingdom business, or you
Yes.
talk of a Christian having business,
Yes.
we always have this mentality of God called me to help others,
Yes.
and if I don't, my business might go down.
Absolutely.
So you become a charitable organization
Yes.
without definition,
Exactly.
but with fear of God might
Exactly.
kill my business if I
Exactly.
don't. So
So this is not a charity.
Okay.
Let's define a charity. A charity is exactly what you're saying. A charity, unfortunately, and I have to use the term unfortunately,
yes,
focuses on a problem and tries to alleviate it. But a charity never fixes the problem. All right?
Okay.
In other words, a charity will look for orphans and feed them.
but that's what it will do forever.
That's all it will do.
Doesn't get them out of that
Yes.
mentality
So-
of an orphan.
So its functional environment
Okay.
is to continue working on orphans. But they never do anything to stem the growth of orphans. They never do anything to change the reason why there's an orphan. All right? So, and are charities wrong? No. Does God use them? Yes. Are they functional? In fact, it is because of many Christian charities that we've got a lot of people who've benefited. So we are not in any way speaking against a charity,
Yes.
but we are distinguishing
A kingdom
between
business.
a charity
Yes.
and a kingdom business.
And based on what you've just said about the charity, you're saying that when it comes to kingdom business,
Yes.
we are talking about it having influence
Yes.
and impact.
Yes.
Meaning when you talk of influence,
Yes.
it permeates society.
Absolutely.
When you talk of impact, you can look at somebody and say, because of this kingdom business, their
Yes.
lives are transformed.
Exactly.
Yeah?
So we're talking about a for-profit.
Yes.
In other words, a kingdom business makes profit. It grows. It is to be distinguished from a charity which is a non-profit.
Non-profit. So this is for profit.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's get that very clear in our mind. So when it is profitable, it means certain other aspects are required. So it is also a business tool for ministering. Now this is a key word that we're going to give a different
I
meaning.
think you need to define that, because the minute you touch ministering,
Yes.
you've already brought it to what we understand
And
as church.
that's the problem.
Now let's redefine the
Yes.
word ministering
Yes.
here.
It is a kingdom tool, notice.
Yeah.
It's a kingdom business, it is for profit.
Yes.
But it is also a tool. A kingdom tool for ministering to two types of needs.
Okay.
Spiritual and economic.
Yes.
Now, before we misinterpret, remember talk about a kingdom business. So the term ministering must be re-understood.
Remove it from the four walls.
This is not preaching.
Yes.
This is not NGO. This is not survival. Ministering here has to be understood very differently. Bible talks about, and he gave some to be apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists, to equip the saints.
For the
We
work.
decided that they should go and preach. He said, equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Now, the work of the ministry is not work of church.
The work of the ministry. Ministry here is not church.
Exactly.
So the work of the church, because that's how we understood it
Exactly.
before. So ministry is not church.
Yes,
We say
the
that.
work of the ministry,
Yeah.
let's elevate. Let's think of the kingdom as a kingdom, okay? Because it's
Okay.
funny, we use the term kingdom, then we jump into a spiritual or a religious context.
Or we take the word kingdom, which
Yes.
is massive,
Yes.
and domesticate it.
All right, now
Yeah?
let's use another
All right.
context. Let's talk about government,
Okay.
all right? Because a kingdom is also
A government.
a government,
Oh,
and
yes.
the government shall be upon his shoulders, all right? So if I say you're in a government ministry, are you a preacher? That's the question.
Okay.
So when I say you're supposed to be in government as a minister, ministering, what am I saying? I'm saying your job or functional environment is supposed to bring change in the nation. So a kingdom business creates ministers. Think cabinet ministers.
Yes.
Don't think preachers.
So when you think of a cabinet minister, you're talking about one who brings change, because
executes.
every ministry, every docket is
Exactly.
supposed to bring change.
Exactly.
It's supposed to serve humanity.
Thank you.
So when you talk of it ministers, it serves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a kingdom business ministers.
To the community.
You see the difference
All right,
now?
all right.
Minister to the community, and it brings both economic and spiritual change. Now, that's the principle. And these two are not separate.
Okay.
They are synonymous.
Talk about the spiritual change first.
Okay. Let's use a very simple principle.
All right.
And I'm going to draw the principles from some of the scriptural contexts we have. Think of it this way, that Jesus said something. He said, the harvest is plentiful,
Oh, yes.
and the laborers are few. He didn't say the preachers. Don't be very
Laborers.
careful.
Yes.
A preacher is supposed to be a laborer. Now, I'll bring context to it.
Okay.
Laborer means a highly skilled worker. That's what laborer means in the Bible. Laborer in the Bible doesn't mean somebody who is struggling. Then he says,
highly skilled
Then he says,
worker.
pray to the Lord of the harvest. So who is the Lord of the harvest? God.
God.
So the harvest is who? People. Now let's go slowly. The harvest is
Ready.
ready, ripe. The harvest is people, nations. So they've always been,
Ripe.
there you go. Now, what we need, our problem is not harvest.
Our problem is skilled.
Skilled
laborers.
laborers. Then, he didn't say train.
Pray.
He said pray to the Lord to send. Notice the key word.
Okay.
To send laborers into the harvest. It simply means this.
Yes.
It means God knows who can access who.
So when he's talking about sending a skilled laborer, he's
Yes.
sending specific people that he has equipped
Exactly.
for a specific harvest.
Yes.
So the harvest, the problem we're having right now is when you talk of kingdom business as a tool,
Exactly.
we go to business people with the wrong laborers.
Exactly. See, this is what we misunderstand.
Unskilled.
Yes, we've always thought there's a dichotomy, spiritual and secular.
Yes.
So we all go and gather in a church, in this context,
Yes.
have one person preach the same context and expect everybody to interpret it, which is not wrong if it was the right setting, but we've never fully understood the next level. The next level always was this. If you go back into the Old Testament, God didn't as much gather people as send people.
Say that again.
In the Old Testament, Daniel was sent. Joseph was sent. The places of function where they were not in Jerusalem.
Out of Jerusalem.
Exactly.
Out of the four walls of the church, as we understand it.
That's where they function the most. Now, what did they bring? Economic and?
Spiritual.
Thank you. Do we see that in Joseph?
Yes.
Yes. We saw Joseph completely revolutionize the economy of Egypt, yet the same Joseph brought a value system into Egypt that tells you what kind of a person he was. What did he say to Pharaoh? He said, there is a God in heaven if he gives me the interpretation. And what did Pharaoh say? Isn't this a man who has God, who walks with God? So what did he bring? Spiritual
Value
change,
system, yes.
Yet he also brought economic change.
Let's note that when you talk of Joseph bringing a spiritual change in the system, he did not preach.
Absolutely.
His life is what spoke.
Exactly.
Meaning, we are coming from a place where we spoke, or rather we preached to people, to where our lives preached to people. Because most of the time when you notice that the church carries their Bibles to the office.
Yes.
They preach to the people in the office.
Yes.
What is written. And the people are saying, we don't want what is written. We want what is written in your life.
And when
That's what we see with
when
Joseph.
you're there, we don't want your preaching. We want your skill.
We want your skill. We want your life. We want your kingdom life.
Exactly. Now, how do we see Joseph?
Oh.
The Bible begins by telling us, and Joseph refused. In today's economy, Joseph is a picture of sexual harassment at work.
Yes. Oh, yes.
All right? And he refused to compromise for promotion.
Listen to that. Because right now, what is our problem? Is where you have this kingdom person who is so purposed to walk in with God, but when they go to the workplace and they get confronted by corruption, they fall for it.
There you go.
Why? Because I need promotion.
There you go.
Separating spiritual from your natural life.
Exactly.
Dichotomy. Not understanding, if you hold on to your values, heaven backs you.
That's the thing. So kingdom business, while making profit, doesn't compromise. While highly profitable, retains its value system. What the Bible says, and Daniel refused to defile himself. The word in the Hebrew is to corrupt himself.
There's no moral decay for anybody in the kingdom who is working in the world.
Absolutely, and yet he thrived. And yet they increased, they became more powerful.
Yes.
So a kingdom business is a tool for that.
So give us an example with the current company or organization in the world we are living in. Because if we talk of Joseph, yes, we are taking principles from him. Now, do you have companies that have patterned themselves after Joseph?
In fact, in our subsequent shows, we are going to host one such CEO who operates within the structures of the Kenyan government, has done major tenders with zero corruption.
Yes.
Zero. We're talking about huge income. And he has also walked away from massive income just to say, I will not compromise.
I think the reason I told you to give that example is because there are times we feel as Christians that you cannot operate a kingdom business in the world, that you don't understand these people.
Absolutely.
Corruption is part of their names. It's part of their definition. So many people feel like without corruption, I'm not going to thrive. I'm not going to make it in this place.
And why we say this is, as we will have him, he'll also talk about how his own staff have embedded the value system. Initially, people used to assume it's only the CEO and his wife.
Yes.
Now, wherever they do business, people say, are these guys from that company?
Yes.
Forget it.
And I think that is important to note that if you talk of the economies of the
Yes.
world, if we talk about the people we deal with out there, we're
Yes.
talking about corruption is everywhere. So the
Exactly.
question is, as a kingdom person,
Yes.
how do we talk about moral decay?
Exactly.
Are we going to be following the patterns of the world? Is
Yes.
there a possibility that a kingdom person walks in the same system and says, I will not, like Joseph, I will not do these things against God, not
Absolutely.
against myself, not against my husband or my wife,
Yes.
against God? Is there a kind of a people? And
Yes.
that's what we are calling kingdom people,
Exactly.
kingdom business people.
And now, because we know this company personally, we are using a specific that we know. There are many others, but this one is very close to home.
Yes.
And we know that, remember the principle of the skilled laborer? Now the same CEOs are able to minister spiritually
Yes.
to the people in these systems at the same peer level. Now let me say that term again. At the same,
Peer.
guys, use the wisdom of Naaman's maid. Naaman's maid did not try to pray for Naaman, did not try to teach Naaman anything.
Yes.
She told Naaman, there's a prophet in Israel. The problem we have today is that we've got unskilled laborer trying to bring in a harvest.
Yes.
In other words, listen, and no offense meant, there is no way you can be serving tea and ministering to your CEO. It's not going to happen. And I don't care what your church told you. Let me tell you the truth. He has the power to change your economy. Therefore, you have got no clout in ministering to him.
So when we talk about shop floor level, when we
Yes.
talk about shop floor level, we are saying, let me ask myself, if I'm at the shop floor level,
Yes.
who am I supposed to be
That's why
ministering to?
it's called peer-to-peer.
If I'm a CEO, because on the other hand, when you find a CEO ministering to the shop floor,
It's still
you're
not
scaring
correct.
them. You're
Yeah.
intimidating
By
them.
the way, if you're a CEO who holds prayer meetings every day, they are not praying, they fear you.
They fear you. So you have to tell yourself, my
Yes.
friend, let's come to a place of skilled laborers. When
Yes.
God talks about skilled, he's saying that when you go to Babylon and you find Nebuchadnezzar,
Yes.
send him a Daniel.
Absolutely.
The Bible says that he was skilled.
Yes.
He was
He wa-
sharp.
he was first
good
tested.
looking.
He was first tested
Yes.
to show that his acumen was above all the astrologers, all the leaders, everybody.
Yes.
So at peer level, Daniel was at the highest level of peer interaction
Yes.
in his day.
And the Bible says when he was tested, he
Yes.
was 10 times more
Exactly.
than the magicians.
Exactly. And all the astrologers, all
And
the
the
wise men.
yes.
Now from there, it was possible for Nebuchadnezzar to say no other God to be worshipped.
But
Do you see the peer level? This has to be how we understand. This is the same principle with Paul, the Apostle Paul.
yes.
The Apostle Paul was Pharisee of Pharisees. People don't understand what that means. It means he was the highest ranked rabbi in Israel.
Yes.
Now, only Paul could speak against the law. That's why the book of Galatians, Ephesians, all these issues he talks about, the law is to him, is
Yes.
like dung. When he talks about the law, needs to change. When he talks about grace, he is qualified to make that statement.
Yes.
So when God talks about laborers, you have to be into your skill level.
I love that scripture that it says that pray to the Lord of
Yes,
the harvest.
harvest.
He's the one who knows his harvest.
Yes.
Now he's saying send skilled laborers.
Exactly.
And what is it in the kingdom about when you interact with people, there's always the issue of pulling them up.
Yes.
If you're talking of CEO here,
Yeah.
if you're stuck and you must talk to these people,
Yes.
you're not talking to them from there.
No.
You are lifting them up.
Absolutely.
Meaning you also have to have the issue of transformation of people
Exactly.
in your heart.
It-
That transformation
Yeah.
doesn't mean changing them to
No.
become like kingdom what we know it,
Exactly.
but pulling them up.
And that's why we use the example of a CEO we know. He brought up his people by modeling, not by commanding or directing.
Yes.
When they see you, how you live, they want to be like you.
So they come up.
Exactly.
You cannot minister and leave people where they are.
Exactly.
You always have to be the kind of person like the good Samaritan who takes this guy from the ground and
Yes.
brings him to an inn. You don't leave them there.
Yes.
Now, there are many people who will minister to this guy who has been attacked and leave him there.
Absolutely.
But the Bible talks of the good Samaritan is the one who
Yes.
can take this person from where they are to where they ought to be.
And when,
it's-
that's why when we say a kingdom business must have impact,
Yes.
it must be relevant to have impact.
Okay. Let's
In
talk
other
about
words,
that.
Daniel was relevant. In fact, it depends on whatever language. If I'm talking to millennials and Gen Z, this is how Daniel was. Nebuchadnezzar had a database problem.
He can't remember what
He cannot remember his PIN code
Yes.
to access his data. And Nebuchadnezzar is weird. He says, whoever will tell me my data and the PIN code. So Daniel operated at a level Nebuchadnezzar had to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Joseph brought an agricultural solution to a nation.
Yes. Relevant.
From
relevant.
that point, he could speak into that environment.
I love what you've just said about being relevant, because
Yes.
when you're talking about relevance,
Yes.
again, we don't want to say these are kingdom businesses that are so irrelevant.
Exactly.
You're always talking about pre-COVID.
Exactly.
We're in a season when what we're discussing today, there are many businesses that are totally irrelevant
Yes.
in this season.
Yeah.
There are many careers that are irrelevant. Now,
Yes.
talking about irrelevance,
Yes.
now as kingdom business people, we must always be at the cutting edge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let me just digress a little to bring something home.
Please do.
Okay? Let me say something to
Yeah.
you. You cannot be the one teaching on giving when you're asking. You get the principle?
Yes.
I'm in a crisis and I'm telling you, you know my sister. Giving does this. Can you help me? In other words, that laborer has already messed up with the harvest.
So talking about skilled laborers.
Yes. If I want to teach you giving, I'm a blessing to you.
Yeah.
And then I say to you, did you know that giving actually brings increase?
Yes.
Now, you're paying attention because I am proof of my message.
I think when we talk about that, we are saying that
Yes.
church as we know it, where we are coming from,
Yes.
the word skilled,
Yes.
laborers were there.
Yeah.
Skilled was the
Was
problem.
the problem.
So we have laborers going to the harvest
Exactly.
and messing it up more. And sometimes you give an example. There's a time you've given an example of bringing a sunny
Yes,
to harvest strawberries.
exactly. You'll damage the entire farm.
Explain that.
Yeah. You see, this is the thing. Skilled laborers is a very key word. It means knowing what the harvest looks like. It means having experience of the harvest. So let's assume I want to harvest coffee. All right?
Yes.
Then what I do is I go get somebody who is more efficient with harvesting potatoes.
Okay.
Okay? How do you harvest potatoes? By digging up the soil. All right?
Yes.
Then I send him to a coffee farm. What will he do?
Uproot.
He'll dig up the coffee tree. That is the wrong, listen, he's highly skilled in the wrong environment.
So you are sincere.
Yes.
As you minister to this coffee
You are
person, if
sincere.
you look at the coffee as a community,
Yes.
that community you're ministering to, you're sincere.
Exactly.
Only that you're sincerely
Wrong.
wrong.
And this is crucial to understand. In ancient Israel, among the Jews did not have a concept of secular and spiritual life.
Okay.
There was no such thing as, what is your spiritual life like? You can't tell a Jew that. You couldn't tell a Jew, tell me about your secular life. He didn't know what that meant.
How is your prayer life lately?
Yes, how is your prayer life?
How is
to
your
him, it was
worship?
one. His economy, his prayer, everything revolved around the kingdom. It is only us who have this dichotomy called secular and spiritual. So we think we go to work and then we go to church.
So when you talk about transformation of peoples
Yes.
and nations,
Yes.
we are talking about no dichotomy between the nations and the people.
Absolutely.
Individually, your life
Exactly.
should be
So,
excelling
so the
and
same
thriving.
way I stand up to speak and teach and activate something is the same way your business is sent.
Okay, so this is a sent business
Yes.
with a mission.
Clear-cut mission.
And one of the things with God, it's always
Yes.
about transformation of lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your business must first cause transformation of its own individuals.
Okay.
Remember why we spoke in another broadcast about Noah? It starts in the family.
Yes.
Meaning, if your business does not have kingdom values in it, and the staff working in it not have these two things, spiritual growth
Yes.
and economic growth, that business can't be sent.
Oh, so you're talking about if you have a kingdom business, if you say you're a
Yes.
kingdom business person, your organization must change the lives of those working in it.
Within it.
Both spiritually,
Thank you.
economically.
Yep.
So we cannot have also a kingdom business, call it a kingdom business,
Yes.
and economically your people are totally
Exactly.
oppressed.
So you're this Christian CEO, and your people pray every day, morning, you guys pray.
Yes.
Lunch hour, you pray. You take a break. In the evening, before a project, you pray. But the increase in prayer is not commensurate with the increase in income.
So you cannot look at your staff and say, by the way, I'm operating the same kingdom, worldly principles in a kingdom business.
Nope.
And meaning that if we talk of increase,
Yes.
people out there should look at your staff and say, surely
That's
there's
it.
increase. We can see increase.
That is it.
Spiritually
Yes.
and economically.
That's a key.
I mean, we are talking about increase. You know, when you talk about increase in companies, there are many CEOs who will be like, my friend, let's talk of spiritual increase. I will preach to them. But when you start talking to because let me give an example now. We're in a COVID season. As a kingdom business, did you cut the salaries of your staff? Or did you believe that God, in this same season, can give them an increase? Now, when we talk of kingdom businesses, we know of businesses that
gave people an increase in COVID.
In COVID.
Kingdom businesses.
Realize that when you're talking about the world, they take advantage of COVID season that we don't have money, therefore we go on a pay cut, whether they have money or not.
In fact, let me say it outright, and this is not a prophecy, it's a fact.
Yes.
It's going to be very difficult for these businesses to restore your salaries after COVID.
Oh, yes. So as a kingdom person, you have to go back to your father and say, listen, this is the world. If COVID allowed them to go down 25% or 50%, my friend, only God will save you. Because there's no time the world will come and tell you, now we have recovered. We are post-COVID, we have recovered. They will not. In fact, we said something. They will ask themselves a good question. You mean you can work so well on a 50%? You're doing so well.
You mean you can also work from home and reduce all my overheads?
So we are coming to a place of kingdom business. What is a kingdom business? As a kingdom citizen, and you're out there operating a kingdom business, how do you treat your staff? How do you view their growth? Do you see it as a competition? Because there are people who don't want their staff to grow in case they left. Or do you see them called to you? This is all about kingdom business.
Yep. And there's no way God is going to give you increase when your people are not increasing. The base has to increase the same way the height increases.
A call to kingdom business. Realize we're not talking about the church, we're talking about kingdom. And when you talk about kingdom, there's a higher responsibility. The standards are higher. The bar has just been raised. And this is when you need to ask yourself, am I a kingdom business person or a church business person? Because that will determine how you operate post-COVID. This is business unusual. Keep tracking.